right, retailing, local banking, things like that. So when an economist looks at this, I look down here and ask, how are those sectors doing? Well, the first thing to look at is, what are they? Excuse me. What we're looking at here, first of all, with logistics, it's blue collar. Healthcare is white collar mixed with blue collar. I found that out because I just had my knee looked at and there were some really serious technicians. Manufacturing, blue collar. Construction, blue collar. How many times do I say blue collar? Now you may not like that. You may say, where's the high end of the economy? Why is it we've got all that stuff? Well, here's your problem. This is brand new data, just came out this week, Inland Empire 2011. What share of the population of Riverside County has gone to high school or not gotten that far, but not one college class of any kind? Answer, 46.4% Riverside County, 48.5% San Bernardino County. That defines a blue-collar area. I can't go get you Microsoft with that labor force. Isn't going to work. And that is our great challenge, is to change those numbers. It's a huge educational challenge, and frankly, we don't know how to do it. If we did, we would have done it a long time ago. Now, looking at the cities, this is the Inland Empire. Actually, it's Riverside County and the coastal communities. Here's Menifee. 41.5% of your adults 25 and over have stopped at high school or less. So turning it around, the other 60%, round figures, has at least had some college. Again, there's Orange, San Diego, and Ventura. That's who competes with us to get high-end firms. Then below here, here's LA, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. Here's Riverside County, which constantly says to me, we want a high-end economic strategy. Excuse me, not with a population that's 48.6%. Not one class beyond high school. Drive me nuts over there. Here's Hemet, Indio, Imperial, Paris. Why those cities? Because those are all cities in the county with 65,000 or more people. And the data that we got this week is for cities of 65,000 and above, of which Menifee happens to be one of them. When we look at share that have a bachelor's or higher, I forgot to change the title when I made this chart. Bachelor's or higher. There's Orange and San Diego. Here's Ventura County. There's Murrieta, LA County, Corona. There's Temecula, Riverside County, Riverside City, San Bernardino County. Menifee does not score well on bachelor's or higher. You're at 17.9. Your sister city, Paris, over here, 6.4. You can see that 215 has an issue here, because there's Paris, there's Hemet, there's Moreno Valley. Menifee's the winner on the corridor till you get down to Temecula and Murrieta. But this is an issue in terms of drawing certain types of firms to this area. Now, looking at that economic base that I referred to, the sectors that drive us. Number one, logistics. What's that all about? A huge share of U.S. imported containers coming from the rest of the world go in through the ports of LA and Long Beach. I like to say the one thing, and I'm beginning to think it's the only thing, that the California legislature has done absolutely right was to put California on the West Coast. The reason for that is when trade comes to the U.S. from Asia, it happens to bump into us first. Not only that, these harbors, underneath them, the water is 50 feet deep. Why? Because they sucked all the oil out and the bottom sank. Again, another really good long-term strategy. Now, the stuff leaves the ports, a lot of it by truck, and a lot of it comes out to the Inland Empire, where it goes into our warehousing and distribution sectors in this area. Now, what's going on here in the ports? 8.2 million containers, and we measure them as 20-foot equivalent containers. It's called a TEU. That was 2006. Look at the growth during the early part of the last decade. That is China exploding, the Asian market exploding, and us importing. You could see in 07 it stayed about the same. Then we got to 08, and it started to fall off a cliff. And then 09 it fell all the way off the cliff, and we were down 25%. Now, part of the problem we faced as a region is during this period, we were building facilities because everything had been so hot. So a lot of those facilities initially sat there vacant. Then what happens is it goes back up to 6.9. In the last 2 years, including this one at 7.1, it's back up 19%. But you'll notice we're still not back to the peak. We're sort of just below where the peak was. But the last month we're up 7,000 jobs year over year. Here's exports, which is a new thing. U.S. has not been a good exporting country for years. We exported 3.3 million loaded containers out of those ports in 11. That was the highest number of containers loaded leaving any port complex anywhere in the history of the United States. This year, it's expected to go up slightly to 3.4. Again, world trade is slowing somewhat because the rest of the world is actually having more trouble than we are. But the result of that is we're seeing growth in jobs in the logistics and distribution field. This is everything from truck drivers to warehousemen. And excuse me for a moment, if you think those people are poorly paid, you haven't been inside a modern warehouse. If you go in and look at the Skechers building, and you go inside to see what the workers are doing, what you will find are no workers. The entire monster building down there, 1.8 million square feet, it's 50 feet high inside, is one gigantic robotic operation. There are 600 people working there, care and feeding that machinery. They are not low-paid workers. They can't be because of the techniques they need to do, and that's where that sector is going. I mean, I used to work in warehousing when I went to college. I pushed a cart, I had a list, and I picked parts. All they've replaced is me, the cart, and the list. Now, next is manufacturing, second sector. So logistics is doing well, and it is growing for us again. So that piece of the gold mine, good news. What about manufacturing? This is actually, by the way, something being made here in the Inland Empire, over in Rancho Cucamonga. That is a ring that holds together jet engines for either GE or for Rolls-Royce or for Pratt Whitney. They have the market for all of that. They have 600 people in Fontana, and they're having a real shortage of workers because they need trained machinists. The problem is machinists today have gray hair. They're starting to retire. They're baby boomers. There's no training flow being handled to replace them, so it's a real issue for us. Now, what are we seeing here? One of the things we do is we go out and survey people. Cal State San Bernardino surveys purchasing managers. These are the guys and the gals who order the parts when management says we're going to expand production or cancels orders if they're going to shrink it. That line is when they tell us things in their company are neutral. Well, if you go all the way back to 09, middle of the year, almost all those dots, with the exception of this little group right here and this one right here, are positive. So there's been a positive force within manufacturing in this area for some time now. It's weakened, but it's pretty strong. Now, one of the reasons why manufacturing is doing well is the value of the dollar. The value of the dollar against world currencies peaked on a scale of 100. It was up at 112, which meant a very strong dollar. On that scale of 100, it's now down to 72.5, a weak dollar, down 35.3%. So what? When the dollar is weak, everything we sell is cheaper to the rest of the world. Everything we buy from the rest of the world is more expensive to us. The result of that is we tend to import a little less and export more because our customers find us a good deal. Now, you're looking at an alcoholic, I confess. This is my favorite wine. It is called Latèche. It is a Burgundy. It is grown in France. Back when I first started drinking it, which was about 2002, my wife, who is my fourth wife, and therefore somebody I had to train a lot before she married me. Anyway, Deborah said, okay, at that price, in 2002, you can have one bottle a year. So I drank one bottle of Latèche a year. Well, today that same bottle, without any change in price in France, would cost $2,030 just because of the change in the exchange rate. Our household is no longer importing Latèche. I'd like to keep one of my wives. So what's happening? I'm now drinking Heights Cabernet Sauvignon from Martha's Vineyard. Great wine, by the way. Now, if you go back to 2002, it cost $180. Now, let's say that Heights had never changed the price, and you're sitting in England today, instead of 180, it's costing you only 133 because everything we sell to the English or to the French wouldn't buy it. You know who they are. But the fact is, as a result of that, we have that result going on. So what's happened? Manufacturing jobs started out really pretty strong for a while here, and then all of a sudden they've declined a bit here in the last couple of months, which is a bit of a difficulty for us. One of the ways we look at this is when we look at these big facilities around here is to ask what's going on with vacancy rates. In the Inland Empire, back in 05-06, you could not find a vacant building to lease if you needed industrial space. 2.7 was the rate. During the recession, remember I said we built a lot of stuff, but nobody came. So it jumped up to 12.8. It's down now to 6.4 because companies are moving here. Not only that, for the really big facilities, the vacancy rate is 0. 500,000 and above, which is mostly what's being built, it's effectively 0. This is what's gone on in San Diego. Hasn't performed as well as we have. Orange County sort of gotten back to where they were. LA County never had a problem. The trouble that these places have, they haven't any dirt. There's no place to build anything. So this industry's future is entirely out here, and as a consequence of that, the blue-collar jobs associated with it, we have a competitive advantage for. One of the things that goes on is why do companies move is cost. A facility in the Inland Empire goes for 32 cents a square foot. 47 cents in LA, 51 in Orange, 62 in San Diego. Hugely to their advantage to come here. But that doesn't tell the story. A building in LA is 20 to 24 feet high. Buildings here are 30 to 32 to 40, and now the latest 50 feet high. So if you allow for the space vertically, cubic feet, that's the equivalent relationship. So what you're seeing is huge savings, 24 cents a square feet for us versus LA, 29 Orange, 42. On a percentage basis, enormous savings to come here. We have the strongest competitive advantage for any sector in this kind of work, and it will be a powerful engine for us going forward. So summarizing these blue-collar sectors, strength is there's nowhere else to build facilities, strength because trade's going to grow, manufacturing, the low value of the dollar is helping, The short term, it was rising. It's now slowing because of the world economy. So you've got two good things down in that base of the gold mines. Now we get to housing. Oh God. Here is the problem chart. This is the number of first trust deeds on mortgages in the Inland Empire, 849,000. That's the number that are underwater, 368,525. Those folks sell their house tomorrow, they can't pay off their mortgage. What share is that? It is 44.2%. You'll notice it's generally been slowly declining. It jumped up a little bit in the last quarter, but it's trending down. So one of the questions asked to me was, all right, when does this get to zero? When is everybody that's got a house cured? Well, by the way, this 44% is first trust deeds. If we add in second trust deeds against houses and credit lines, the number is 51% in San Bernardino County. It is 60% in the city of Menifee. So when you see houses in town, 60% owe more than they're currently worth. That is a huge challenge to getting out of this altogether. Now, when does it, at the rate that this has been declining, when does it get to zero? The answer is third quarter 2017. Now, I admitted a minute ago that I am 71. I don't want to wait to 2017 because I'd like to see this over before I die. So I asked a different question, and that is, not everybody who's underwater is going to give up. Some people are going to hang in there waiting for a recovery. So I said, what if somewhere from 30 to 42% of the people go ahead